Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another video. And today I wanted to talk about something I just really, started to realize after running this business for a year and a half now. And I think this is really the biggest secret to any successful business. And quite frankly, this is probably not actually a secret because if you really are into entrepreneurship and listening to some solid leaders in the space and a lot of successful YouTubers, successful business people on YouTube, you will definitely know this. You will probably have heard of this concept and know about this before. But in today's video, I wanted to share my experience and my thoughts about this. So hopefully this could give you some insights and also inspirations behind why you need to really start, making content, really building some impact and influence people online with your ideas, experience, and thoughts. So really the secret here is talent. How good are you at attracting talent will directly correlate with how good and how successful you are with your business. And as I mentioned earlier in different podcasts, in the past, I've always heard successful people when they get to a level and they will always say, I am not the reason why I am successful. It's always because of my team. It's always because the people who are around me that allow me to get to the level where I'm at today. And it's really just become more true and true day by day as I am running my own business, because at the end of the day, the business, when it gets to a certain level, you can only do so much to grow and to scale. Then the people around you will really help you to get to a level that you wanted to. So essentially, I think essentially no one will get to the top by themselves. You need other people to get you there. So that's why, so this realization really changed my mindset around really what's the biggest thing that determines the success of a business. And now, whenever I listen to people talk about their business, their experience, and their past successful ventures, something I always pay attention to is how they were able to attract talent and how we could also leverage their experience to attract talent ourselves. Because we know talents are not cheap, hiring is not easy, and a lot of times now I really think if your business is struggling to get to the next level, you are really just a great hire away from breaking that ceiling. Obviously now there are many different types of hiring platforms. There are LinkedIn, Indeed, Upwork, mainly for freelancers, and so on and so forth. So these are all great platforms. You could get started to hire some candidates and people that might be a fit, but ultimately they will not be the best talent that you are actually in fact looking for. But it's fine when you can start with those platforms, because you cannot expect to find the best talent that you could possibly find right away on this platform. And it's also because great talents are always full of opportunities. They're never looking. So the harsh reality is either you could convince someone to come work for you, or you have to go actively look for them. So this is also one thing I learned about hiring, which is if a candidate comes to you, this person most likely will not be the best hire that you wanted for this position. So a few things I wanted to highlight here when it comes to hiring off of these platforms or just the standard hiring process, which is, I think the number one thing I always look for from these candidates is number one, past experience, and number two, personal traits. So obviously with personal experience or past experience, you're able to see that from their resume. And usually I would like to see at least they have one or two relevant experience that just match what I'm looking for from their skill sets. So obviously this depends on what type of candidates you're looking for. But if you're looking for someone who can already immediately plug into the system and start to, contribute and provide value, sometimes you cannot risk so for those instances, you can't really hire someone who has no past experience, but just here to learn first and then contribute. So this is one type of the first thing I would look at for the agency when we do hiring, and the second is personal traits. And I gotta be honest, this is really a guessing game because you don't know them, and hiring is always a pretty fast turnaround process. So you cannot spend a month, you cannot spend a month debating and getting to know them before you hire. It's just too much a waste of time and also resources. So at this point, it's really So that's why when I hire someone new, I will always have a trial period where we will get to know each other and get to work with each other in actual work. But this is a period where I get to see what they're actually like, what their working styles like, and how well they are at communicating and really working inside a team. And also, I really look for people who are tenacious and who are always hungry to learn more, because I've found, especially from as a service provider, you always could do more. Service, you could always do more for your client. You could always improve the quality and results. So I'm always looking for people who are never satisfied with the status quo, who are always looking and driving to that next level. So yeah, so that's a little bit. So that's some of the things that I always look for when I do hiring for new positions. And now I wanted to, spend the next few minutes also talk about what's the best way to hire in the future, in the next decade, which will be personal brand. So this is really the whole idea why I started this channel, is because I wanted to start to make some impact online and to really making content for an audience that are interested and could benefit from the stuff and content I am talking about. Whether it is 2 people, 10 people, or 1,000 people, it doesn't matter, as I always believe this is a game of perseverance and having a long-term mindset. It's putting content is definitely the way to go for everyone. So there are really multiple ways to look at this. So if you are a business owner, you want to start creating content, and the goal is to build your personal brand, because in this way, you're able to attract talent, like-minded people who will be interested in working for you. And number 2, if you're an employee or someone who's looking for a position or opportunity, this could be your portfolio. This could be a YouTube channel or a Twitter account or Instagram account. These could all be part of your resume, because now you have a voice, now you have an impact online. Especially when you have an audience, this is definitely something that the business could leverage and something most candidates won't have. So personal brand, creating content online is such a benefit for both sides of the table. And here I wanted to, and lastly, I wanted to share an anecdote that I just remember very clearly from Gary Vee. So this was in one of his podcasts where he talked about the most vulnerable time when he was building VaynerMedia was between 2014 to 2017, because at that time, the way to crush his business was just to poach all the talents that were at his agency. But because Gary Vee was actively building his own personal brand, putting out content online, people were taken away from the actual talent that's behind him, but were only focusing on himself, because he's the one who's making all the noise and gathering all the attention. He has admitted it multiple times in his podcast or in videos, which is his talent is ultimately how he was able to build such a successful agency. And also I believe part of the reason he was building his personal brand so actively was because this way he's able to attract the best talent. As he wasn't in the advertising industry at all, as a newcomer, he needs to have an edge over other competitors. So personal brand was his solution to competing against all the incumbents in the industry. So lastly, I want to share with you the one last thing from Gary Vee. His hiring philosophy has just really stuck with me, and I just been strictly following this, and it has really benefited us a lot, which is hire fast, fire faster, promote the fastest. So earlier I mentioned I will always do a trial with a new hire, and it could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or even a month. And in this time, this is really where the interview begins, because that's when I start to get to know them, get to work with them in a setting, in a team setting, in a work setting, to see how well they actually work, how productive they could be. Interview, people are good at faking. People are prepared for those kind of stuff. So it's not a real representation of who they are. And so the only way that you're able to make a good judgment call is to actually get to work with them. So that's why during the interview process, especially if there's no obvious red flag, then I always will say yes, and just to take the person on and to see what would be like to work with them for a trial. And this has really benefited us a lot and really facilitate a very effective and efficient hiring process. And all in all, this has really become the best way that I found when it comes to hiring. So hopefully you are also adapting something like this so you're able to move fast with hiring and firing and also promoting talent in-house. So yeah, that's basically it. And I just wanted to, make a quick video today to really talk about this because I think at some point, and every business owner will realize they can't do everything. And at some point you will need to hire and you will need to learn how to hire. And this is really the game once you reach a certain level, and this will really ultimately determine how successful and how fast you can grow at your business. So please leave a comment about how you are hiring at your own business and what are some of the things that you have also learned from hiring. And catch you guys in the next video.